weekend of the lunar eclipse. I hope everyone is doing well. We're just still in the full moon energies, and I'm so excited to have a guest here to kind of share and just, we can bounce ideas and downloads and energies just to kind of tune into the collective fields. This is Stella, and I just want to share a little bit about Stella here so that you know who we're going to be having this event and this in-gathering with here. Let me just pull up your bio. I just had it. It's not even Mercury retrograde, so I don't know what to say. Okay, hold on. I just had it here.
The energy is all over the place.
It is, and it's very heavy tower energy too. Stella, I can't find it. It was just right here, so I went over to the tab, and it's mysteriously gone. So I don't know if you want to just take a moment to tell everyone. This is my Sophia Returns collective here. If you want to just introduce yourself by telling everyone a little bit about yourself, your spiritual journey, and we can just kind of start here, just so we can all get to know you.
Sure. So my name is Stella Yann. I'm a light worker, and I've unlocked a lot of spiritual gifts in the past few months that I had no idea were within me. I've always been spiritually led, I would say, always being led to the books, to the sections, to researching things. When I picked up the version of The Alchemist in the school library, I never assumed that I'll be the alchemist of my own life one day. And I'm currently being guided to work with angels, archangels, and dragons, and all kinds of magical beings to help uplift humanity and help bring more joy into the world. Mm-hmm. And as we've talked about it with Sonia, I'm kind of a inner child activator, and I'm helping people reconnect with their purpose, with their inner child, with their joy. And hopefully together we can restore this unity consciousness so that we can end all wars for good and just enjoy life.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And I came across it's one of those things that I think we've all had, where we somehow ended up on somebody's YouTube channel or website, and spirit just kind of grounds us there to kind of take in some of the medicine and messages. And I reached out to you, and it, we've just been connecting over the past couple of days, and here we are with this lunar eclipse, and there's just so much going on astrologically in terms of this big shift, this energy that's coming in. We have this full Taurus moon. What are you feeling in the fields right now when you kind of tune into all of this, and what's kind of coming in for you as far as what this does mean for the collective, and what's coming online for us, because it's almost like this portal, and we're kind of inching toward the solstice, where we always have some level of huge realm shift, and there's always this sort of bifurcation energies that kind of come in, and it comes in through these portals here. So what are you kind of feeling for us as far as where we're positioned and what's important now, and what the focus is, just given what's going on in the fields, and your take astrologically, and just based on what you're getting?
There's a lot of resistance at the moment, but I would say it's not a bad resistance. It feels like it's streamlining us exactly where we're supposed to go, and it's kind of launching us forward. But because we need to have that breakthrough moment where we're being launched into where we need to go, it feels like a lot of resistance, and it feels like we are breaking free from certain threads that are inauthentic, that are synthetic. So we need to kind of maybe remove them ourselves, or just surrender so the universe can remove them. But there's definitely this separation that is happening from that which no longer aligns with us. So that resistance might feel like we're being attacked, but it's probably a resistance that is in our highest good, in the sense that it's something that we have to go through, and it's part of the storm, but it's not a storm that's going to lead us further down into the mud. It's a storm that's it's a little bit like the lotus flower. The lotus flower grows into the mud, but the lotus flower blossoms, and it survives, all these harsh storms. But when it blossoms, it inspires the entire world. And I feel like we're positioned to be these lotus flowers, so we can lead people to embrace their own star quality, so they can shine with what makes them themselves. But it's a very interesting time, because it's a huge shift. and it's individual, but it's also collective. And
Mhm.
I would say I'm excited to see what happens next. Not many people love change, and I've
Mhm.
just embraced the journey of change in the last few years, where my life changes every single day, and I change with it. And the moment we get attached to something is going to change. So I think that's the test.
Yeah, that's been a big energy this year because we've been in this universal seven energy with the chariot and the tower archetypes, and I've noticed, I don't know about you, but I've noticed that since we shifted out of Libra season, which I mean it could be too because I have a Libra moon, so when the sun is in Libra, I'm tending to feel a little bit more harmonious and balanced. But it seems like as soon as we shifted into the Scorpio season, that's when the intensity, it
Mhm.
just, for me, it didn't even build up. We just walked into it and I was like kablam. And those in my community probably know I've been MIA for a while and I've been navigating a lot of things. But we're in that first decan of Scorpio where we have that Five of Cups energy, and that's where the sun is, and then we have the moon in the opposite polarity in the Taurian energy. And I feel like, even though we've shifted out of the lunar nodes over the summer, it almost feels to me like this final touching in of these lunar and solar energies are sort of bringing that energy to a close. And now we're really
Mhm.
moving into that Libra Aries axis. And then we have so much tower and death energy too coming in with Scorpio season. And it seems to so align with what you're saying, where the change is here. In fact, when we were talking yesterday, when Stella and I were talking yesterday about the energies around this class, she said 555, and it was so funny. I had to laugh because I'd actually been seeing that sequence so everywhere prior to us connecting. And if you've been seeing it too, I think you're in the right place at this time as well. So Stella, why don't you tell us a little bit about the 555 energies? And certainly, I mean, this must be something that you're also feeling too for the collective, which is why you wanted to go in the direction with that energy. So why don't you share a little bit about that and what you're feeling into?
Yeah, I think I want to take it one step back when you mentioned Scorpio and the energy of the chariot, which is the fast movement, and you mentioned the Five of Cups. I think it's a blend between the Five of Cups and the Seven of Wands.
Mm,
So in the Seven of Wands, there's this reflection within before we proceed to partner with other people, so that we can align with our most authentic self with the purpose, so that we can partner with the right people, the right opportunities. But it's very interesting, just before the call, I did put two cards together, and it was Go Deeper with Scorpio, which was the
mm,
Moon Oracle, which is
no. Can't make this stuff up.
going to exactly, but it got paired with another card, which is the Oracle deck, which is Truth Transcends Illusion, which is 2/2, which is kind of like the card after the world, so the new cycle. So I would say this time of the year is pushing us to look within, because there's so much more to discover about who we are and what we can bring into the world. It's not punishment. We're not being brought back to trauma and ancestral trauma. It's because there's so much more treasure buried within us. And it's only through that Scorpio energy of looking within to the most hidden layers,
Mhm.
um,
Going deeper under the illusions.
under the illusions. And it's sometimes illusions that we've created for self-preservation. These are
Mhm.
illusions that we've designed when we were little, the inner child. We want to protect that inner child. And on some level, the subconscious mind thinks maybe certain areas, certain rooms of the psyche are not safe to enter. But we're, spiritually enhanced, spiritually gifted now. We're matured. It's safe to open certain doors that
Mhm.
maybe wasn't safe when we were little. So I just wanted to connect that to the Scorpio energy, because Scorpio is very unexplored, that energy of the depth. And that depth is within all of us, especially
Mhm.
in this season. Wherever you have Scorpio in your natal birth chart, that's where you find your treasure almost. That's kind of
Mhm.
the message that comes through. But the 555 energy, the portal, funnily enough, everything is connected. But when I designed journals to kind of launch all these ideas that I had, the kind of the prize that came was 555, because it's the number
Mhm.
of change, is the number of creativity. And I wanted to share that experience with people. So five has always been this number of change. And I think when life is about to change, you're going to start seeing it everywhere, like you mentioned. And sometimes you're the one that seeks the change. You're the one that initiates it because you're fed up with your circumstances. You think, I want more, I deserve more. And
Mhm.
sometimes when you start seeing it everywhere, this is a reminder from the universe there is more.
Mhm.
And which goes back to look within, go deeper. There is more of you that you haven't reclaimed yet. And if you think of the world as a mirror to who we are, if we haven't discovered all that we are, we're going to continue to settle for the things that are in front of us. If the
Mhm.
shoe fits, our conversation earlier. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is an invitation for you to embrace all parts of yourself, even the ones that still scare you. Because at the end of the day, the things that scare us the most are the things that reside within us at the deepest levels, where we find the power to overcome them. We find the power to be truly ourselves into the world. There's no more judgment. There's no more, what are people going to say? What are people going to do? No, this is my story. I'm
Mhm.
reclaiming it. This is my power. I can do it.
Mhm. And that's I love how you said that, because I mean that's really how we move into the North Node energies. I mean that's the North Node is in Aries, and that is that that ability to just step out and be who you are, and have that authenticity, and also too, when you were talking about being fed up and having the courage and the confidence to be yourself, that is also very Aries in its emanation. So it's really about us having that opportunity to start aligning with the North Node energies and coming out of those shadow energies of Libra that can be kind of wishy-washy and people pleasing and placating and that kind of thing. And it feels to me like we're being given that opportunity through that Scorpio energy to go deep into those illusions that lock us down there, so that we can just take that quantum leap. What are your thoughts about that?
100%. Yeah. And it's almost this idea that somebody's going to come and give you the opportunity, somebody's going to come and give you the power. No, no, you reclaim it. You
Yeah.
take the time to integrate the parts. You take the time to get to know your inner child, to repower your inner child, to integrate that. You take the time to integrate with your higher self. This is a journey that is very singular, in the sense that you have to walk it, you have to go through it, you have to understand that there is a responsibility that comes when you reclaim that power. But no one's going to give that power to you. It's yours if you want it, but you have to not claw your way, fight your way, but you have to be committed to wanting to be in that state of sovereignty and self-assurance. It starts with you. Everything starts with you. And I think the 555 power is the return to self, all aspects of yourself, and embracing that. Because after five comes six, which is the self growth, which is once again another journey begins. Five is like, if 10 is the closure, it's completing a whole cycle. This is closing the door to one aspect of your life and then proceeding forward the next chapter. It is a quantum leap, 100%. It is a quantum leap.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you think of the four operational layers: body, mind, heart, and soul, the third, which is 555, it's emotional. You have to have that change of heart. And 555 is an invitation to have that change of heart. And usually, five leads to creativity as well. So, whatever you let go of, you're going to make more space for creativity, for authenticity, which is exactly how your power shines through. I
Mhm.
don't know if that answers your question.
No, no, it definitely does. It definitely does. So let me ask you this, because we are, and I can't believe how quickly this past year just kind of flew by. But we're in that last quarter of the year, and moving into this sort of bridge going into that universal eight energies. So with this lunar eclipse, I mean, what do you feel that it's, and I know you kind of answered this in some of your previous answers, some of your previous things that you were saying and some of the downloads, but how do you feel like we're being prepped? I mean, I don't know if you have been reading into the energies going into the new year, but they really start to come online, around this time of the year. And, what are you feeling that is really building momentum as far as us as a collective, and what's being made available to us? And how does the 555, or the energies that we're kind of sitting in now, how are you feeling that that's preparing us for that, for these universal eight energies?
100%. It's a great question, because I've seen people prepare for the year more so than I've seen the energy. I've seen the energy through people kind of manifested and people kind of planning for the next year, and especially some manifesting teachers. They're already, positioning their targets for the year, and they're, saying it out loud. I'm going to be the writer. I'm going to be the public, whatever it is. They're setting these targets, and I think maybe 555 is an invitation to kind of set this grid around you that is of opening opportunities for change all the time. And this is something that I've noticed, that the moment you stop growing is the moment where you start running on the old programming. And I
Mhm.
know a lot of people are still maybe struggling with the idea that they have to change every single day. If they want to truly channel all of their potential, they have to change every single day, which is a little bit of a challenge because you cannot get attached, which is very Buddhist. I mean, when Buddha said the root of all suffering is attachment, when we get attached to a specific part of our life, we start to settle down. And if we're here to lead the change, if we're here to be the messengers, the channelers, we have to keep that portal, that grid open with us wherever we go, which is going
Mhm.
to cause tower moments for the people around us as well, which is going to
Yeah.
cause them to look at us in different ways as well, because we're changing things
Yeah. So,
constantly.
well, yeah, sometimes you are the tower, and as you embody it, it's almost like you're hitting a bunch of dominoes and they all just start to cascade.
Yeah, I mean, you made a great point when we recorded our podcast episode with the glitch. We are causing glitches in the system because we're changing so much. We are refusing to be part of the system. We're changing, and we're glitching in the eyes of others because we're not behaving the way they expect us to. But that's the only way that we can trigger an awakening within them. And I think the energy that is being set for the next 12 months is going to be constant change, especially if we want to speed up this process. I came across this interview where it was talking about the star seeds and the earth seeds and how we're all being awakened and brought here, and how we're starting to onboard the new children who are replacing the old consciousness because they're already more advanced. And we're all guessing at this point, is it going to take 10 years, is it going to take 20 years, is it going to take 50 years? The more we normalize this change, I think the faster it's going to get.
Mhm.
So I think many of us are realizing at this point on a subconscious level that things are going to continue to change every single day for the foreseeable future, and we're trying to make peace with it,
Mhm.
which, yeah,
Mhm.
change can be uncomfortable. Change leads to growth can be the most transformational experience, but if you are constantly transforming, this is you embodying the phoenix spirit. You're constantly dying and
Yeah,
being.
that's very Scorpion energy, Scorpio energy. It does feel like a lot of Phoenix energy that's coming online in many ways.
And especially with Aries, as you mentioned, we're getting ready to lead in our own lives, in our own
Yeah.
communities. And this is the purification process, us
Mhm.
being constantly burned down to the ground so that we can become better at rebuilding our foundation faster. So it feels like a lot of tests, it feels like a lot of lessons, it feels like a lot of tasks, but I think we're going to be setting a new example in the next year. A lot of different people, a lot of different industries, a lot of different ideas coming online and replacing the old ideas, the old structures. And the only way for this to be sustainable is to adopt the model of constantly changing, which
Mhm.
is the 555 portal. But what are your thoughts around five?
Well, it's like I was saying before that whenever I see 555, it's usually a sequencing that gives me a heads up that there's a timeline shift of some sort coming in. And, just in general, just numerologically, the number five is the energy of, there is like you were saying, it's the energy of change, it's the energy of expansion, it's the energy of, you know, um, having a pioneering spirit and moving into an expanded space where you can kind of, have more variety and adventure, and it's that anchoring that energy in. But it is mostly of things changing, and things shifting. Sort of like a number that brings in the energies of shifting. And so, it's interesting too that, this is what you wanted to call, you need the call to be, because when I did kind of look into the Chaldea, I mean the ephemeris, I look at the ephemeris on Chaldea.com. There was, I work a lot with tarot astrology, which is understanding the major and minor arcana, those archetypes with the astrological correspondences. And it's interesting. It's 555. We have the sun, all in the Five of Cups energy. We have the moon in the Five of Pentacles energy, and it's interesting too that I was noting that because we are moving into that universal eight energy, where a lot of us will start to be able to anchor that creative brilliance that we have, those gifts and those treasures that you were saying that we're digging for and pulling up from the bottom right now. What's happening, I feel, is there is a lot of healing and transforming around the disappointments that we've had in that Five of Cups energy around lack and scarcity and provision that's happening for us right now to kind of purify so that we can move into that 8-year energy. And I feel like this is where we're going into this tipping point of being able to start moving into those spaces where we may have been operating on so much, whether it's poverty mentality, lack programming, famine programming, and all of these sort of, things that kind of keep creating these spaces where we feel like the divine doesn't care about us, that we're, our needs aren't being met in those places where we can get triggered. I feel there's a profound healing around that that's preparing us for opening up into more expanded spaces of energy and even abundance, because all of these things that we're wanting to create as leadership and as the pioneers, a lot of them are going to need to be financed, because we are still in that system where we have that monetary system. And I feel like for many of us, the change is coming in around areas, and this is where a lot of us have been getting the initiations. And I was just wondering, what were your feelings about that? Because I know when we were talking about this before, it's like we were talking about our own issues with this and, just things that we've been coming across. And I'm just wondering, what are you feeling around this as far as a lot of us who have been going through a lot of these initiations and triggers around being provided for and scarcity and lack, if you were feeling into anything, just sort of shifting with that and what your thoughts were about that.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of thoughts came to mind while you were talking. I think, first of all, we're rising above the mind control. And once again, the mind is the second layer. The heart is a little bit deeper. And that's why a lot of forces have tried to keep us in our minds, which is the second layer, where we cannot fully unlock our heart and use the capabilities of our heart. The most transformational organ, the most powerful is the mind, but the most transformational is the heart. And so when we rise above the level of the mind control, everything is possible, which is a little bit scary. And I'm being guided to the Monster Zinc animation with all the doors, which is a very beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you think about it, we have been mind controlled so that we can be slowed down, so that we can stay in one place, so that we can focus on one job, we can focus on one house. If we are free to move as we want, to use our free will in any way, shape, and form, then that means this is a little bit of a collapse of the traditional family structure, traditional employment structure. So there's a lot in the air as to what do we actually want to create. So the traditional family re-envisioned from the abundance mindset, which is a relatively new concept. We've heard a lot of people talk about abundance, but abundance is still quite theoretical. So how can we ground that so that it's more practical? How can we make abundance more practical? And how can we open all the timelines without people getting lost? Because the idea of time is that it's fixed, it's logical, which is the mind control, which is the logical aspect. We know that time is not linear. We know that the timelines, once they're freed, there's going to be a lot of confusion, because suddenly, if you've been controlled your whole life to believe one thing and suddenly you realize, whoa, this whole thing is actually the truth. I think we're being guided right now to embrace our divinity, which is, again, another challenge for us. Because even as we're ascending as the spiritual beings, that we have embraced the spirituality, we're still putting restrictions onto us. And finances is a good point. We still think, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. And it's the immediate thought. So it's expanding the way that we battle with the thoughts. And this was something that came to mind when I was kind of thinking about how do I cope with life a little bit better now that I have all these attacks nonstop. And it's quite literally like kung fu training for your mind. You have to constantly fight back the thoughts and be like, no, I'll replace you with this, I'll replace you with that. And this is the initiation process, I think. Fighting to reshape the subconscious mind, fighting to reshape the conscious mind, and fighting to, when you see something, straight away, nope, that's not me. Nope, that's not me. and building that abundance within your own garden. And one of the metaphors that came to mind last night was, if you're trying to build an abundant life, planting all these seeds, finding the treasures, what's the first thing that your garden needs? It's water, it's the emotions. So it's once again returning to that heart, which is a very crucial point the Scorpio season, returning to our hearts. We're once again being triggered with these thoughts. We're once again being triggered to return to the mind. And this is the call: keep returning to the heart, dig deeper within the heart, feel your emotions, feel your heart space, which is the challenge. And one point that you mentioned, that a lot of us are dealing with the scarcity mindset of, oh, the divine beings don't care about us. We are grounding that divinity within us. We are the ones that care. And through us reshaping that mindset, I care, I am the divine, I'm the embodiment of the divine, I'm going to channel that forward. So it's no longer, it's almost overcoming the mindset that something outside of you is going to come and save you, is going to come and do the work for you. But it's the inner child, I think. If the inner child feels a little bit hopeless, so you as the parent, the guardian, need to embrace the inner child and allow yourself to blossom into your higher self. But it's a process. Maybe if you think about the 555 as the three elements: your inner child, your current self, and your higher self, the embodiment of that walking change wherever you go. But once again, I think next year is going to be that grounding, the attitude of constantly changing and shifting, and opening these doors, and opening doors for other people, inviting people, realigning people, moving people. A little bit like Monsters Inc., but we're not scaring. We're spreading the joy. That's the
Right.
mission.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, I was wondering, I don't know, do you have your deck right there with you?
I do have it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we're
I
talking.
was wondering if maybe you could pull just a couple of cards and just talk about what you're feeling, just looking at this bridge between now and, so we have the 555. So let's just do a little bit of a bridge and see where it's taking us as far as going into the solstice energies, where we have this huge, I feel like everything is kind of shifting everything around in the fields to kind of get us in alignment with that door that is whatever that realm shift that happens at the winter solstice or summer, wherever you are. I feel like the period between now and then is kind of giving us, it's almost like the sorting hat in Harry Potter, right? We're putting our sorting hat on. So what are let's just pull a few energies here and see what we've got coming in as far as crossing that bridge, and what the highest potentials are that are being made available to us.
Okay, well, I've been guided to use the Earth Alchemy Oracle. So maybe on brand to restore our connection to Earth, be a little bit more united with our earthly presence. Because once again, we've been so much in our heads, planning and thinking and overworrying. So the energy of the Earth is connecting with that which is not visible while being grounded. And the first card is Jade and Pink Lotus, sink into silence, reflection, and tranquility. So it's the heart space that keeps coming, which is the heart chakra. It's the opening of the heart. It's the opening of the heart space. It's the Scorpio season is an invitation. Listen to your heart, sink back into that connection to your heart. And the next card that I have is the Two of Wands. So once again, we want to have the answers in front of us. We want to see the reality with outside of us. We want to see it being delivered to us. But I think the biggest lesson is come back to your heart. And this is not the answer many people want to hear, because it just means that there's more work. But I think if you make that work of the heart space play, that's the key to change your perspective. And the lotus flower, which is something that I mentioned earlier on the quote, we're blossoming into the lotus flowers. And the way to blossom is through your heart.
Well, yeah, I just noticed there was a lotus flower right on the card. You can't make that stuff up.
Call that alignment. Call that alignment. Let's look into the moon deck. What is that telling us?
So let me ask you this, and how do we return to the heart? I mean, what is the process for that? I mean, everyone's in different places on their journey, but just what are just some general things that we can do, in order to return to that? I mean, what does that actually look like, or how does that actually play out in a practical sense as far as, us within our own journeys? I mean, what guidance would you have to embody that, or to do that? I know a lot of us are weary. There, like you were saying, there is a lot of attack in the fields. I'm not going to talk about that on this call necessarily, or we might go there. I mean, never say never, I guess. I do only have an hour, so I mean, everyone who knows me knows I will go on and on and on if you let me. But a lot of people are feeling weary, and I feel like that's what a lot of this energy is, as far as releasing and healing. A lot of it is that energy of the heart. The cups is the heart and the emotions, and we're clearing a lot of that density around some of these situations that have come in for us, around these themes we've been talking about. So what would you say to somebody who is just kind of maybe coming out of this, or maybe still even in it, where there we want to start shifting timelines and moving into those higher sets, those ones reflecting back our true divine self-worth, and you know we're still sort of destabilized because of what we're going through, and because we're being triggered in so many ways. What can we do to start that process and really utilize and maximize these energies during Scorpio season of death and transformation and Phoenix and all the tower and all of this good stuff that sometimes doesn't feel so good? What are your thoughts?
It's a lot. It's a lot. And we did talk about that on one of our calls, that this has been made more difficult for a reason, to slow us down, to burden us constantly so that we don't return to self. And, with the first card, sink into silence, and the second card being looking outside. And there's the globe here. It's almost like what we talked about, the planning of the next year and all the plans and all the possibilities. And it's almost like this, the logical mind will have you believe there's one way to get what you want. There's one version that you can get what you want. And the last card that came out was leave the past behind. Mm. And I think this is the answer. It's the past is here. You are sinking into silence in the present moment, because there are so many timelines and possibilities, but there's only one present moment right now. Right now, you call back your power, you call back your energy to right now. And that is how you return to all the timelines and all the possibilities. Because if you're rushing forward, you're not in the present moment. You're not sinking into silence. You're not operating from your heart space. If you're in the past, you are exploring a land that doesn't exist. You are giving life to energetic spaces that are no longer there. You're keeping them alive with your mind. These possibilities, these grids almost, you're keeping them alive with your mind. Everything starts with your mind. And if you can shift the energy from the mind to the heart and sink into silence, there's only this. You in the present moment, co-creating with the universe right now from the heart space. And I think this is the power of the surrendering as well. You are strengthening that green energy of the heart chakra, and you are wearing, and also the pink is symbolic of the inner child. And the waves, they're the emotions. When you calm down your heart, you calm down your mind, you know that you're safe. The waves are calmer and they take you where you need to go. The stream takes you where you need to go. It's the flow of life. It always flows. Sometimes we create the blockages because we're so focused on, well, why didn't this person support me? Why didn't this person that? It's almost like you're supposed to be moving forward, gliding forward, but you put the rock, or you position yourself, you anchor yourself. Why am I not moving? Why am I not? And it's like, it starts with you. So, for someone who wants to explore reconnecting more with their higher self, unlocking more of their higher timelines, it really has to do with pay attention to where your mind is taking you, because if your mind is taking you to a memory that happened 5 years ago, that there's something that you need to process, something that you need to integrate. If your mind is taking you to something that happened 15 years ago, then that has to do with inner child healing, inner teenager healing. But these are prompts that are not going to go away until you actually face them and integrate them, alchemize them into something. And the moment where you're no longer brought back to the past is the moment where you return like the lotus flower, shining in the present moment. And sometimes you don't need to do anything. Life will take you by the hand, position you somewhere else where you are needed. Sometimes, really, it isn't about you having to plan every single thing, but you coming back to the present moment, to yourself, and the answers come to you,
Mhm.
which once again is not something that many people want to hear. But in order for you to unlock the next timelines, you have to make peace with the past and
Mhm.
make peace with being grounded in the present moment. And that's where all these possibilities come to life.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. Um, just kind of taking that in and thinking about where to go next with this conversation. This is just so many layers to this. Um,
I can take one more card from the animal deck because I like to work with different energies,
yes, please do, please do.
and whenever I'm working with oracle decks and tarot decks, I like to bring all the energies and invite them to create alchemy, infusion, so there's no longer separation. The rabbit spirit, now is a lucky time. So whenever we deal with expecting the unexpected, there is no preparation for it.
Mhm.
And with the rabbit, I don't know if you've ever had a rabbit as a pet. I had, and I still do. A rabbit is very fearful by its nature. A rabbit does not like you to hold it. The rabbit likes to come to you. So it's almost like don't chase the things because it's you have to think of yourself both as the conqueror of the rabbit, the owner of the rabbit, but you also have to think of yourself as the rabbit's heart, because rabbits are very fragile. They're very beautiful creatures. They're very they're full of love. They're full of curiosity. They want to explore. They want to find. They want to, sniff out. What is this? This is an adventure. If you've observed a rabbit, and when they get joyful, they just jump and they go all over the place. The energy shift when you feel that you can trust your environment, when you feel in a state of joy, you're a transformed being. You
Mhm.
just you share that joy with your mere presence. And I think that applies to humans as well. When we are afraid, we feel like the caged rabbit that does not want to move, that is scared. And when we find that we're in the right environment, we not only blossom like the lotus flower, but we start to joy, we start to take these leaps of faith that we don't know where they're going to take us, but we know that that curiosity has been sparked within us.
Mhm.
And I'd say maybe work with that energy, the rabbit spirit, especially when it comes to discovering what your heart really wants.
Mhm. Mhm.
Work with that, take the jump, see what happens.
Yeah, it's about. I was gonna say. I remember over the summer, in one of my emails out to my list, I was literally, Stella. I was actually like, I'd be going down the road in a car, and I'd look over, and a rabbit would be, and I was in a city. There would be a rabbit on the sidewalk, just like running alongside the car. They were just jumping out everywhere, and it's so spot on what you were saying, but also it's almost like in many ways, especially talking about Scorpio energy, where there's that depth of going into or jumping into the rabbit hole, going down the rabbit hole, right? And just kind of going in deep, and just kind of letting go of everything that you know thought was true before, or that you were attached to, like you were saying. And that's the Fool energy of the major arcana too. That's that North Node energy too, that Aries energy as well. So it feels to me like we might be getting aligned to start moving into that and really connecting to our North Node energy, especially because that Aries energy too is so much there's so much leadership connected with that. I think maybe Aries and Leo, and maybe even Capricorn too, just such strong templates of leadership. And so I'm wondering, because I know we've had a lot of talk about, spiritual leadership, and starting to anchor the infrastructure for, creating this new Earth timeline, et cetera. What you're feeling too, how these energies might be preparing us to start occupying that space for those of us. I mean, spiritual leadership doesn't have to be like anything big, like having like a channel with all of these subscribers and all this other stuff. It's just pretty much, being that anchor wherever you are placed.
Emanating that energy.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering that what do you feel, because we have been discussing this just off camera about spiritual leadership a little bit, um, how you feel like this might be actually creating that, or creating the energetic template to create that, and what you're feeling into around that.
The first thing that comes to mind is, what if it doesn't have to be that heavy? What if it doesn't have to be that difficult?
Mhm.
We are so used to living a very difficult life. And I don't mean that necessarily physically. I think mentally, we're just used to overthinking. We're used to being constantly bombarded, thinking, oh, if I do this, how is it going to affect the situation? What if we allowed ourselves to just be and then react to whatever happens next instead of overthinking, if I do this, if I do that? And I think that has to do with the mind control and the mind interception and all these methods of manipulation and dark psychology that have been used on us since the day we were born. And they're embedded into the way that the system is designed, education system, employment. There's always this, I'm going to fool you first so that you don't fool me. I'm going to make sure that I establish my dominance. But if we go back to the fool's journey, that is a journey of, you know, it's not just you going on a journey to explore territories that you haven't been, but it's also going on a journey to living life from a perspective with which you haven't lived it before. The fool's journey doesn't have to be
It's about
you.
transforming. Yeah, it's about transforming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be you going on a voyage where it's one way ticket and you abandon everything behind you. What if every day you try to change one
Could be
mind?
that though. You never know.
Could be that. No, it could be that 100%. But
Yeah.
a lot of us are being called to be cycle breakers and change makers, and that doesn't have to be. I think we're forgetting that at the end of the day, if we want to break the cycles and change the cycles, we need to bring more love. It's not about casting the judgment and holding these anchors that are bringing us down. People betraying us and backstabbing us. If all of this is a school and this is just one lifetime, and okay, we've learned a lesson through the backstabbing and through the betrayals, how transmute that, let it go, let it sink into the ocean and return back to the source. If you were to wipe your mindset clean and start from this sense of innocence and unity, anyone that has ill intentions that meets you, they're going to meet the light. That light is going to transmute whatever darkness they're coming from, and it's going to share some of your light to them. And I think it's this, the spiritual leadership really comes to being able to stay grounded in that state of love, whatever is being thrown at you. And it's coming back to this, that love, that the purity of heart. And if you're still holding on to certain things, certain experience from the past, your purity is being affected, but you're doing it yourself because there is an internal struggle, an internal battle that you're fighting. What if you didn't have to fight it? What if it was already won? What if this is just your nervous system trying to persuade you need to remain in the survival mode?
Mhm.
And that's how we shift into the abundance mindset, overcoming the survival programming, because it's in our nervous system. It's in realigning with the parasympathetic system where we are able to remain calm, whatever happens. And that is once again very Buddhist. To be able to be a monk in the city, it starts with your being, not doing, being. So what if it didn't have to be that difficult? How would you live your life, Sonia, if you were, what if it didn't have to be that difficult? What if every time you thought, oh, this is very difficult, you're like, no, it's not. And you return to that sense of joy.
Mhm.
It's a shift in seconds. And we're
Mhm.
not used to it. We're not used to living life easy.
Mhm. Mhm.
We're used to torturing one another because the system was designed to do that, to see how far they can take it with us torturing one another, with gossip, with the drama, with the lies,
Mhm.
with the wars, with the media design in a way that it's casting judgment. What if it was as simple as, okay, that's surrendering. You're saying, okay. And you return to your sense of joy, even if people around you are baffled, even if they're angry. Because if we want to help people leave the space of fear, leave the space of anger, we need to be anchored in the joy. We need to be emanating that joy so that we can almost give them our sight for a moment and offer them that perspective. What if you didn't have to be angry? What if you didn't have to be afraid? And it's once we've mastered that, then we can bring it to other people. And I know a lot of us are called to lead, but it's the self mastery first. And I think that's the biggest shift that we're going to see next year. All the people that have been, channeling messages and creating their platforms, it's going to be a test of their joy, I suppose, more so than their strength, because we all know how to be strong all the time. But do we know how to be joyful all the time? How to remain joyful amidst the chaos?
Mhm, mhm,
No many of us know that.
mhm, mhm,
And I think that's the shift towards abundance.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
That's the biggest treasure that you can find when you take the deep dive within the Scorpio season. How can I, if you think about, and I'm looking at this card, which is the golden age wisdom and the dolphins. If you think of yourself as a dolphin, by spirit,
Mhm,
doesn't matter where you're thrown, you can swim.
mhm.
And if you're a dolphin and there are sharks, you can still swim. You can use
Just
your
very fast the other direction.
you have the ability to dolphins, they have the ability to send signals and communicate with one another. They have these intuitive gifts. We have the intuitive gifts. We've unlocked them. We have so many gifts. We can rely on all of these gifts. It's about being present every single moment that you are, consciously thinking about it and thinking, how can I use all the gifts that I have? Yeah.
Very well said. Yeah, I think it is very important because in that joy, or whenever we're in those higher vibrational states, I mean that is a key to moving into higher timeline sets, is being able to hold that frequency, and being able to operate from that frequency, and even if you do fall out of it, to be able to catch yourself, and learn from those emotional energies, because I myself personally do feel that other emotional energies do have their place and their purpose. Even anger can be used as a catalyst for change, depending on how it's channeled or how
Mhm.
it's manifest. But it is really about maintaining that frequency that comes in from being in those higher spaces, and this is why we're always talking about doing what brings you joy, because it is that you are streaming. It's almost like that live stream from the heart, because that's where that energy emanates from. So I definitely get what you're saying, even though my take on that is a little bit different, because I feel that that it is about being in that high frequency space, but at the same time, our other emotional states too have something to teach us, and have something, they're getting our attention about it, so about something, or they can be used and to bring in transformation or whatever a situation needs. But yeah, no, I completely get it, and it is that joy space that comes from the heart, just as that card that you pulled
Mhm.
before was kind of pointing to. So it's so beautiful how it all just kind of knits together, and it all just makes sense. Yeah.
No, you make a really good point. It's not about suppressing all the other emotions. It's about allowing them, because when your heart space is open, you're receiving feedback from your emotions in real life, in real time. You're not suppressing them. You're not analyzing them 15 years later, which is what we're experiencing now. We're
Mhm,
having to integrate memories from 15 years ago because our heart was closed then.
mhm,
But now that we're opening this big portal, the emotions are very easily transmuted, I suppose. The anger comes, we feel it. Okay, somebody's crossed our boundary, boundary closed.
mhm,
Anger disappears. The problem has been eliminated. But maybe we think, how can I create an educational piece now? How can I record a video to help somebody else do the same? So it's in real time, we're communicating with other people. We're creating these bridges.
yes, yes, yes,
But
yes,
one question I have for
absolutely.
you that came to mind was, because we were talking about next year, what do you think is the biggest change that we've experienced this year? Because we're coming towards the end of the year, and then so much has changed this year. But in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, what do you think is the biggest shift, individually or maybe collectively, we've experienced?
Well, I find that, like, for me individually, I'm finding it because it lands for everybody different, because everyone's story, and their whole journey is a little bit different. But individually and even collectively, what I have found is that this year, has served a couple of different purposes, and one of them is that tower energy is always seeking to destruct inorganic structures. So a huge part of this year has been about internally and externally just sort of collapsing out not just the timelines, but even the programming that has kind of been holding them in place. so that more of our authentic self, more of our avatar self can start coming
Mhm.
forward into our lives, especially around issues of self-worth. Because I found with the last lunar nodes that it's been this issue around really moving into the Taurian energy, which is, yeah, sure, it's about money and all that, but it's more about, I think, your self-worth is sort of the template that was really predominant in that. So we were collapsing out a lot of those things that were creating inversions or suppression or blocks around us really being able to access into those spaces. And I found that to be very true for me and a lot of other people too. But it's also been, I think, in a more expanded space because the chariot is the vehicle. That's the Merkaba. That's the light body. There's
Yeah.
also been a lot of upgrades that have happened. And
Mhm.
I know we were talking about the ascension symptoms, and I'm exhausted, and everyone's tired, and that kind of thing too. We all want a nap. And so it's been a lot of different things going on, but I'm finding more, Stella, than anything, it's been a matter of realizing and seeing that external feedback loop pointing to places and spaces where you're still operating on illusions, where you're still operating on false concepts of self, the false self, the slave self, if you will, and a little bit more breakdown of that so that purification can happen and the true you can kind of rise to the surface, like the water to oil, that separation of everything that's dank and dense in the field and in your light body and your consciousness, so there can be more buoyancy. And I have found that that has been, one of a huge factor here. But again, too, I'm finding that there is a lot of healing happening around a lot of the collective programs around abundance, money, lack, survival, scarcity. And this is where we tend to get into fear and where a lot of manipulations are kind of run down on us. And this is where a lot of our initiations are coming into, just based on what I'm seeing in the fields. So how this has been landing for everyone is really different because, like, all of our stories are quite different. But I think that it is about a couple of things. It is about understanding and seeing where it is that you're still, perhaps not standing in the fullness of your power, where you might still be running on some
Mhm.
programs that are creating this illusion that you keep buying into, a lot of that collapsing out. And I do feel, because we have the Scorpio energy that is that tower energy, that we're going to feel that very intensely in November, because it's really kind of make or break time as far as where we're at on the new Earth timeline. So things are happening very intensely to get us where we need to get. And that's just the magic, especially if you're committed. I mean, if you're committed to your organic blueprint and your codes and your soul blueprints, and that's your what you want more than anything else, things will start to move and shift that are in the way of that, and you'll start getting aligned in that direction. So it is, I think, about surrender, and it's not about, of course, fear will come up, and I don't think we ever will eliminate moving into fearful spaces, because we are having a human experience and it goes along with that experience. But it's just about, not about letting that stop you or keep you from um, moving forward, or even if you do get knocked down, to be able to get back up and ask, what is the lesson in this? What is
Mhm. Yeah.
asking of me? And using everything, transmuting it, so that even if it seems very negative, you can transmute it into something quite beneficial. And it's owning our power to be able to do that and move out of these spaces of victim consciousness, even when things do happen to us that seem adverse, to understand that nothing is occurring to you that that you are not creating on some level, and that you cannot transform in some level, even if it comes from a perception change. So I found that, really clearing from the level, like you were saying, of your thoughts and beliefs, the mental body perceptions, and understanding where those filters create things appearing to be certain ways that are not, and how that also can kind of get manipulated to, trigger us in these ways where we start moving or defaulting back into fear, or old states of being, or old ways of being. To really, and especially in this season, to learn how to kind of get on top of that, so that we can move into the universal eight energies. Because when I've been kind of feeling into that bridge and where we are positioned and how we are positioned to move into that energy and into that space, it is the energy of the eight energy that is sort of like being the boss babe, as they say.
Mhm.
into your leadership, your CEO energy, getting in alignment with whatever it is that you're creating. And also, too, when you have the eight that goes above and below, it is about things, us bringing in, and you were even touching on this earlier, bringing in what is in the invisible realms and anchoring it into the physical and being able, and that includes the abundance. That's how that comes online for many of us. So this is kind of where what I've been experiencing and what I've been seeing, just, I think in a broader sense, because, um, like I said, this is landing for everyone differently, but I feel like overall, these are some of the things that are occurring for the collective, however, they're playing out for us personally, with these energies coming in. And so it just, I can definitely see, I couldn't help but notice too, in both of the cards that you pulled, there's like a sun. They both, it looks like the solar plexus. I just saw solar plexus energy as soon as I saw them in a couple of the cards. So you see how it's right there, and then it's in another where he's kind of looking up at the sun. And
Ah, it's funny. Yeah.
yeah, and I just,
They're kind of like the same.
yeah,
They look in the same
exactly.
direction.
That's the power space. That's our power seat, right? The seat of our power. It's in that energetic center. And so I feel like that's what's really occurring here on so many levels. And it's perfect in Scorpio season too, because Scorpio, the Plutonian energy is about power and how it's being used and where it's being thrown around and abusing it and misusing it or owning it. So, we're going through those initiations of really laying hold of our power, and or, clearing or healing at some level of abuse of power, however that's been playing out too, to kind of free us up and free our energy up to go into these realm shifts coming up in December. So, that's kind of what I've been feeling and what I was going to start sharing with my groups. I've been kind of caught up in an eddy of stuff is the best way I can put it, that have made me a little unavailable. But yeah, these are definitely some messages that I felt coming through. And even with people I've been talking to, I'm seeing everyone, especially this past year, have gone through some shade of this to some extent or another. I was just wondering what you know if anything that I was saying kind of resonated with your experience or those of your clients, or any of that, or if you had anything further that you wanted to add there.
Authenticity, that's the big word.
Mhm,
Becoming more of ourselves and removing that which is no longer aligned with us. Maybe a past identity felt authentic to us because we used it to move through the environments where we're positioned into. But
mhm,
because in the past, the environments dictated who we needed to be, now who we are dictates the environments we're going to be. It's a shift in the way that we used to mold ourselves into the environments to survive them because we didn't know better. But now that we're reclaiming the old pieces, now that we're reclaiming these gifts, finding the treasures and using them, our spiritual gifts, our spiritual inheritance,
mhm,
now we're creating the environments to match us because
mhm,
we're the ones that can bring so much, but we need to be in the right environments. And it has nothing to do with, I suppose, us changing who we are, but rather embodying more of who we are so
mhm,
that our frequency attracts the right opportunities, the right clients, because we want to help essentially. And what we bring is not something that's very conventional at this point. The system has suppressed a lot of our gifts, a lot of our talents, and now we're bringing them online and saying, no, this is who we are, this is how we can help. And so it's that authentic lens of I'm going to remain who I am, even if I'm the only person with this kind of set of skills and knowledge and talents in my environment, which is how this is the move for the future.
mhm,
Everyone should have their own unique set of skills and talents. We shouldn't copy one another. We shouldn't strive to be someone else. We should strive to be ourselves. And
mhm,
one of the, I think, something that you asked me about, how can we open our hearts a little bit more earlier? I'd say cry. You have been suppressed. Your emotions have been suppressed for so long. You have a lot of tears to cry that will purify your heart space. And, I keep referring to joy as the ultimate way of living, but in order for you to make room for the joy, you have to transmute a lot of that heaviness, a lot of that anger, a lot of that fear. And tears are what makes room. Tears are what restores that flow.
mhm,
If you're literally resetting the balance by allowing yourself to just cry whatever is being stored that it doesn't belong to your water body anymore, so that you can make more room for the lightness.
mhm, mhm,
One metaphor, again, I'm being drawn to animations and movies, but
mhm,
inside out, we have all these key primal emotions that are within us, kind of guiding us and helping us see what's a danger, what's not aligned. So anger and fear, they're normal reactions. They're guiding us. No, this is not for us.
Mhm, mhm,
This person is definitely not for us. This person is angering something in me, so I'm going to keep my distance.
mhm, mhm,
But if you remember when joy and sadness went on this big adventure to restore and save the memories,
mhm.
it was joy's
Wait,
spirit
what movie was this?
inside out.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one. I'll check it out though. I'll put it on my bucket list.
Pretty much, it was a very big traumatic event, and the girl kind of like was rejecting her past. She was rejecting things that happened. She was denying parts of herself, so she couldn't fully integrate, fully be herself. But when
Mhm,
joy and sadness went to recover these pieces to make sure that she forgive the people, so she keeps the bridges, it
mhm,
was joy's spirit. I can do it. Doesn't matter if
mhm,
it's difficult. If it's I can do it, and it's the joy connected to I can do it. I think this is the joy I'm talking about. It's not necessarily the joy of, yeah, things are going to get handed to me. I can just be a happy little child. No, it's the joy of you knowing that you can do anything in this world. And
mhm.
it's that joy that is kind of coupled with curiosity and courage. The joy of being courageous. Yes, there is fear, but I can do it.
Yes, 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 yes. Very well said. And I think right there is a good place to maybe wrap it up for today. Stella, thank you so much for taking the time to share today. I have information and how you can get in touch with Stella if you'd like to follow her work. I'll put that in the description after we get off of this call here. But Stella, before we wrap up, is there anything you would like to say just before we head off today, just your final words of wisdom?
Yes, that's one message that's very clear and loud, and it's connected to what you asked me earlier. What's the message for next year? The message is get out of the hermit mode. We are being bombarded with false influencers, with influencers that are promoted from the system, with their dumbing down ideas, and they're shouting about things that don't matter. Leave your comfort zone, create content every single day, and talk about the things that are helping humanity raise its consciousness. That is a loud message that is coming from source. It's the time to not shout, but present a different way of presenting ideas. Open up the conversational spaces, invite people, collaborate, and be the change makers that you wish you had to give you the hand up. Invite people, create bridges, as we were talking about.
Mhm,
Start this networking process where you are strengthening the links, the energetic links, because nobody's going to do it for us. We're here to do it ourselves. And even the some of the spiritual communities that are quite elevated, I think they have been breached to some level. So it's really us doing it. Maybe one day we get together, all of us as humanity, but right now we got to start where we are and start strengthening these networks with light. So leave the hermit mode and shine your light. That's
mhm.
that's the message. But thank you for inviting me, Sonia, to this eclipse conversation. It's been
Oh,
transformational.
oh, absolutely. It definitely has. And thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who took the time to join us live. And those of you who will be watching this after the fact, I bless you with love. And I will be back in touch again really soon. Take care and God bless.